All right. Welcome to the class. Sorry, I almost ran a little late there. I had a bit of an internet pop. I am Teacher Jack. Welcome to the class. This class is going to be about spelling in English. So, as you may or may not be aware, spelling in English can be very difficult. Hello there, student. Why don't you introduce yourself? Or not. No pressure. Okay, so as you may or may not be aware, English spelling can be very difficult. Unlike most languages in the world, English has no consistent spelling. There's never been spelling reform of any kind, and we borrow a lot of words from other languages. So our spelling is all over the place. So in this class, I'm going to go over with you some tricks to spelling, and we'll see if we can't make it a little simpler or perhaps just make it more complicated. So to start off, I have a slideshow and a little poem for you guys. So because there's only one student who doesn't appear to speak much, I will simply start off reading the poem for you. All right. So I've highlighted the words in oops, this is the wrong. Okay, there we go. So the poem goes like this. I take it you already know of tough and bow and cough and dough. Others may stumble, but not you, on hiccup, thorough, slough, and through. Well done, and now you may wish, perhaps, to learn of less familiar traps. So you can see here there's already several obvious issues. Tough, bow, cough, dough, hiccup, thorough, slough, through are all spelled with the same four letters, O-U-G-H, but they're pronounced many different ways. So let's continue on. Beware of herd, a dreadful word that looks like beard and sounds like bird. And dead, it said like bed, not bead. For goodness sake, don't call it deed. Watch out for meat and great and threat. They rhyme with sweet and straight and debt. So you can see there I've highlighted the words that rhyme in their various colors. Oops, lost the page there. There we go. So going on, a moth is not a moth in mother, nor both in bother, broth, or brother. And here is not a match for there, nor dear and fear for bear and pear. And then there's doze and rose and loose. Just look them up, and goose and choose. And cork and word and font and front and word and sword and do and go and thwart and cart. Come, I've hardly made a start. A dreadful language, man alive, I'd learned to speak it when I was 5, and yet to write it, the more I sigh, I'll learn not how till the day I die. So as we can see there's obviously some pretty tricky things there. And like I said, that's all because the English language has never been standardized. So we can see all the words up there currently. Currently you can see none of them even rhyme, so I didn't even highlight any of them. So there's quite a bit of variety. So let's talk just about vowels for now, because those are the most tricky thing. The things that were most difficult in this poem were all vowels. So for this purpose, I'm going to have a way of writing the vowels the way they sound as opposed to the way they spell. So I'm going to use phonetic notation for this. These are the symbols you will see in dictionaries when you look these words up. But because you may not be familiar with them, I'm going to go through these vowels. Now, I speak American, I have the general American accent. So those are the vowels I will be going through with you. This little lowercase I is pronounced E. You find it in beat, field, and deed. The uppercase I is I in it, myth, hinge. U is oo, as in root, flute, and shoe. You can already see there it has at least 3 ways of being written. This is as in would, put, could, This is proper, heart, watch. This is an A and an E fused together. It's pronounced cat, have, transfer. This is as in red, ordinary, leopard. And this is as in woman, pencil, author. This vowel is barely pronounced. It normally gets eaten by the consonant near it. So woman, pencil, author. This vowel is O. It never appears on its own. It's always next to an I or an R. So we find it in bore, for, war. This is You find it in nut, come, and butter. This is A. You find it in rain, hate, and cafe. This is I. You find it in height, kind, and sky.
Sorry.
Yes?
The last mark and the first mark is the same. How different?
You mean this one and this one?
The last mark of the first line and the second line, the first mark, I think it is the same. How different?
What are the words?
The last one of first line.
The last one on the first line?
First line, the bottom, very bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And second line, very first. I can see the same mark. How different?
So you mean the one for it, myth, and hinge, and the one for woman?
Like upside down of C.
Oh yes, the upside down C and the upside down E?
E?
Yeah, so that's bore, for, and war. It's an O sound. And like I said,
the mark is the same.
The mark is the same as what? Oh, the one in the bottom, yeah, so that first one is an upside down E. That other one is a backwards C. Can you see it there? The bottom one on the first row, it has a little dash going across it.
Because of my bad eyesight, I can see the same.
Okay, well, sorry about that. Yeah, that is. I'll call that one that one has a name. It's called schwa, and it's written like an E but upside down. So I will call that. I'll call it by its name so that you know what I'm talking about. That one is schwa, and it's the one found in woman, pencil, author. It's a very small vowel. It is never stressed in English. In fact, most vowels, as we will see, will become schwas when they're unstressed. So that's schwa. So then we have bore, for, and war, followed by nut, come, butter. Its symbol is an upside down V. Then we have this vowel. It's made of 2 vowels fused together. It's pronounced A, rain, hate, cafe. This one, also of 2 vowels, is I, height, kind, sky. This is ow, as in cow, out, and bow. And this is oi, as in coin, boy, or asteroid. And this is O, as in boat, gross, and toe. So I will remind you how these sound. Just so you know, I'll be using these symbols later on. So things that commonly affect how vowels are pronounced is whether or not they are stressed or unstressed. So unstressed vowels in English are usually schwas. So for example, when it's stressed, we have cord, but when it's unstressed, it becomes record. So curd instead of cord. There's also something called R coloring. You find this in English. You can also find this in Chinese. But when English vowels are next to an R, they almost always change. So for instance, the A in family is family, but then it becomes farm. Farm. Then there's silent E. This is a spelling thing. It makes vowels say their names. This means that when you see an A, it'll be pronounced A. E will sound like E. I like I. O like O. And U like U. That J there is pronounced like a Y when you write it phonetically. So just remember that. Written at the end, it's always written at the end of the word, normally with one consonant between it and the vowel. So for instance, we can see cub and cube next to each other, kit and kite, and hat and hate. So you can see that change. So these are just some of the common things we'll see. Now, there are always exceptions. The sad truth about English spelling is that even after all these rules I'm going to go through, there will still be exceptions. There's always exceptions in English because it's just too non-standard. But anyway, so let's go through these one at a time. So first we have A. A is most commonly either pronounced A, as in hatchet or cat, or A, as in ache or nation. Now, that sound A is actually only ever written with a single A. So this is the only time we'll be seeing A. That E in ache, that's a silent E. It's making the A say its name. Then we have A, as in bard or tar, or as in various or care, or any word ending in eri. This happens before R's. It becomes A and eh. Now that's also a silent E. So it's good to know that if it's a before an R, it becomes eh. And if it would be a before an R, it becomes ah. So remember, there's kind of this parallel between a and ah and a and eh with this letter. When it's unstressed or at the end of the word, it's pronounced like a schwa. So you can see about and banana. And banana, in fact, has two unstressed A's. So the first one and the final one in yellow, banana. It is also ah after a W or a QU, which remember is pronounced qua. So it's like there's a W, even though it's not written with a W, unless it is followed by a K, a G, or an sound. So remember, it's want and watch, but not wag. In wag, we get that ah sound. And if it's followed by an R after the W, it's O. So war, quarry. For some notable exceptions are father and R. Now we have AI or AY. These are alternate spellings of the same thing. It is most commonly A, as in bait or day. It'll almost always be this. But if it's before an R, it's as in dairy or millionaire. And it's a schwa when unstressed, like mountain and Britain. As always, most vowels will become schwas when unstressed. Notable exceptions to this are said and again. Said and again. And yeah, notice that this AI spelling, A, pretty much does the same things as the A pronunciation of the letter A is. So when we see the single letter A, it's A, before an R is then it becomes a schwa when unstressed. And here we have A before an R, and a schwa when unstressed. So it's basically the same thing, just written differently. Then we have AU or AW. This is also the same thing. It's almost always ah, as in top, lawn, or author. This one's very regular. Now we move on to E. E is most commonly pronounced either E as in she or meter, or as in better or get. It's sometimes a schwa if it's before an R in a word with a single syllable. So clerk and her, but not very or serious. Those are just like the regular E. They can be E or as in very, or E as in serious. It is not pronounced at the end of a word, like in starve or discipline. However, some French or Greek words in English will pronounce that E. So recipe is a French word, cafe, also a French word, and Persephone, that is the name of a Greek god, Persephone, the goddess of spring. It is always pronounced E before another vowel that is also pronounced. So create, area, hideous. Because you say that A and that O after the E differently, the E is pronounced E. Create, area, hideous. And when unstressed, it's a schwa. Taken, poet. Up there are also examples of unstressed schwas. So even though they're E's, they're meter, better, EA. This is a pretty common spelling in English. It is normally either E as in eat or please, or as in bread or help. So just like regular E, it's pronounced the same way. It is normally a schwa as in earth or learn, or an E as in beard or year before R's. Less commonly, but still enough that I needed to note it, it can also be as in bear or swear. Some notable exceptions to this are heart and great. Heart and great. EE. This one is very, very regular. It is always E. Anytime you see two E's next to each other like this, it is pronounced E. It is one of the very few consistent spellings in English. EI or EY. This is most commonly A, as in veil or obey, or E, as in key or seize. It is not so commonly I, as in height or eye. It's always an E after C, so deceive, meaning to lie, deceive, or ceiling, like the roof, ceiling. It's an before R, there, air. It is an when unstressed and not at the end of a word, so foreign, counterfeit, When it's unstressed and at the end of a word, it's pronounced E. Monkey, New Jersey. One notable exception is the word weird, which ironically is weird. EO. EO is a very rare spelling, but you find it in two common words. In people, where it is pronounced E, and leopard, where it is pronounced eh. A leopard is a big cat from Africa. E, U, or W. Sometimes this is also written IEU or IEW, but the I is normally optional. It is most commonly U, as in view or ewe. Ewe is a female sheep. Remember that J is a letter Y. U. It's just U if it follows an R, a Y, an SH, a CH, a J, or any consonant plus an L. So jewel or blue. See that blue is a consonant plus L. Makes the oo sound. Blue. Going on to the letter I. It is most commonly pronounced I, silent, kind, wind, or it, give, minute, wind. Now you may have noticed something. Those last examples are spelled the same. The first one is wind, as in to twist. The second one is wind, which blows through the air. Wind, wind. They're both spelled the same, but pronounced differently and have different meanings. I is pronounced schwa before an R that is at the end of a word or followed by another consonant. Bird, stirrer, It's always E before another vowel that is pronounced separately. Idiot, alien. Because of that ut and in, it's E. It's a schwa when unstressed, just like all the other vowels. Pencil, typical. Notable exceptions are machine, where it's pronounced E, and business, where it's written but it is not pronounced at all. The I is silent in business. I-E. It is almost always E. One notable exception is friend, but other than friend, it is almost always going to be pronounced E. O. O is a bit of a problem. It can be as in dot or doctor, O as in gross or go, as in monkey or come, or oo as in to and lose. So it has different options, and sadly, it's pretty much all four of these pretty much randomly. Look at those silent E's. They're not even helping. It is always aw before an R, for or boring. So this is the one place in which O is very predictable. If there's an OR, it's always or. It is a schwa if it's between a W and an R, so word and work. But luckily, this isn't terribly common. And like all vowels, it's unstressed. It's a schwa, author, eloquent. And you can see back up there at the top, doctor. That second O is a schwa. Some notable exceptions are wolf, where it's that upside down omega sound, wolf. Woman, where it's that same sound in wolf. And then in the plural of woman, it's women, pronounced I. So woman is always a problem word in English.
Teacher?
Yes?
What is the difference between both women and women? I mean,
So
and pronunciation, because I don't notice any differences
okay.
when I say it, women and women.
So the first one is wo-men, and the next one is wi-men. The first one, it's the same vowel you find in a could or put, and the second one is a I, as in it or tin. So women, wi-men. They're both very relaxed vowels. Does that help?
Yes, teacher, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, that's woman and women. So those ones are really annoying because even though the only thing that changes spelling is the man part, it goes from man to min, it's always, the only part that changes when you pronounce it is the w to wit. It's always min at the end. Woman, women. So then we have OA. OA is most commonly O, pronounced boat or loading. But like most of these O vowels, it will become an OR before an R. So bore or course. OE. It appears very rarely. In a lot of Greek words in English it appears. So phoenix is a kind of fire bird from Greek legend. And amoeba is a kind of single-celled organism. But it does appear commonly at the end of non-Greek words in English. And when it does that, it can be pronounced O, as in toe, or doe, a female deer, or oo, as in canoe, a kind of boat, or shoe. One notable exception is does. Then there's OI or OY. This is almost always pronounced oi, as in boy or coin. There are some French words in English where it's pronounced wa. These always come before an R. Reservoir and noir are examples of this. Double O. It is most commonly oo, as in hoop or food, or as in wood or foot. This is the same vowel from woman, wood, foot, woman, the singular woman, not the plural women. It is also or before R, pour or door. Some notable exceptions are blood and flood, both of which it's pronounced blood and flood. OU or OW. This is another problem one. Just like O, it has many pronunciations. When it's stressed, it can be ow, as in cow or out, oo, as in through or you, as in touch or country, or O, as in no or doe. Before an R, it almost always becomes a schwa. Courage, journey. And it also becomes a schwa when it's unstressed and also spelled OU, so nervous. But if it's unstressed and they spelled OW, it's pronounced O, yellow or rainbow. So in this one instance, it actually does matter if it's OU or OW.
I have a question.
Yes?
A dough is like flour and water, right?
Which one?
A dough.
Dough? Yes.
Dough is like before baking bread or something, right? But
Yes.
another dough is like animal dough. Is the pronunciation the same?
They are pronounced the same, yes. Doe, D-O-E, is a word for a female deer.
Yes.
Dough, D-O-U-G-H, is what you make bread out of.
Yeah.
But yes, they are both pronounced exactly the same.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah. So some notable exceptions to OU, which, as I mentioned, is a bit of a problem. So it has a lot of exceptions. Hour and hour, those are both pronounced the same. Cough, pour, and acknowledge. Moving on. Most O-type vowels become an or before the letter R. So keep that in mind. It's the one convenient thing about O's. U. Most commonly, U is pronounced as in butter or dump. It is sometimes a oo, as in rule or flu. It can also be a U, as in mute or a January. So you can see that Y sound go in there. Mute, January. Or as in put or sugar. And that's all. It doesn't really mix with any other sounds. So does anyone have any questions about those? Those were just the vowels.
So far,
Yes.
no question.
Yeah, but about the last letters, about you, I think we have a lot of confusion about it. So sometimes
Okay.
we pronounce it like a schwa, and sometimes a long u.
Yeah. There's no real rules for you. It is normally, it's either which is not quite like a schwa. Schwa is a little short, is a little This is and it's like butter. And the other time it's oo. Sometimes it's even you, it has that Y in there. And unfortunately, there are some rules about these, but they get very complicated. For instance, it's more commonly if there are going to be several consonants after it, whereas if there are less consonants after it, there is one consonant, it's more likely a U sound. And if it's after an R, an SH, a J, a CH, or a Y, or a consonant plus L, it's also most commonly OO. But
Okay.
like I said, those get very complicated.
Yes, teacher.
So those are most of the rules involving vowels. And like I said, I know there were a lot of those, but those are pretty much the only realistic ways to remember them. There are, but yeah. So I hope any of that was helpful. Maybe I should load up the file. But yeah, so some good things to remember is one, if it's not stressed, chances are it's pronounced with a schwa. And if it's before an R, there's a good chance it's pronounced O or ah, like in war or bore. They very frequently do that before R's. So those are the most consistent things. Some other aids is that if you see an A, it's most likely A or A, whereas U is most commonly oo or and O is most commonly O and E is most commonly or E, and I is also most commonly or E. So there's some things you can take away from that.
Okay, teacher.
But some other complications I wanted to go through that are not on the slide as of yet. So you may have noticed there are a lot of words with that GH in there, do, through, thorough. GH is most commonly not pronounced in English. In words like night and height, they have GHs in them, but you don't hear them. They're written this way because a long time ago, 1,000 years ago, you did pronounce these words. So height would have sounded like hacht, and not would have been nacht, and so there was that sound in there. And while we still spell it like that, we don't pronounce those sounds anymore. There are a few words that end in GH and you pronounce it as an F, like cough or tough, but those are rare exceptions. There's also the word hiccup, which sometimes is spelled Hicccough. Luckily, it's more commonly nowadays spelled Hiccup, so hiccup. So that's a word that's actually gotten easier. Some other complications in vowels is G. G before an N or an M is never pronounced. So if you ever see a G followed by an N or an M, you don't pronounce it, like in gnome. And that's most of what I have at the moment. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't, teacher.
Okay. Well, let's see if there was anything else important to mention. Oh, yes. The letter C. The letter C is always a little confusing because it is alternately a k sound, a hard k sound, or a s sound. It is most frequently an S if it comes before an E, a I, a Y, an AE, or an OE. It is sometimes also pronounced like a sh or a ch, as in cello. Now, if you see it before an N or a T, which is very rare, but you see this sometimes, it's silent. And everywhere else, it'll be a hard k sound, as in cat or cross. So that's the letter C. It normally is pronounced S after E or I. Similar to that, the G, as I mentioned, it's silent before M, N, or N, but it's also sometimes pronounced like a J before an E or an I. So for instance, gin, gentle, magic, page, those are all pronounced with a J. However, there are exceptions to this, like get or get or eager. They have E's after them, but they're still pronounced with a hard G.
And letter V.
V?
V. For example, comb or tom or many cases we don't pronounce.
Which letter are you talking about?
B.
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 Okay. Yeah, B. B is
Comb.
B is never pronounced if it follows an M. So comb, climb, dumb. You don't pronounce that B.
Thumb up.
Hmm?
Thumb up. Thumb.
Tongue.
Thumb.
Thumb. Yes, thumb. Once again, yeah. If there's an M before it, you don't pronounce it. You also don't pronounce. You never pronounce it after an M. The reason you can think of this is because that M, you already have your lips closed, and B, you make with your lips closed, B, so you just don't even pronounce it, climb, because otherwise it'd be climb, and that would be awkward for English speakers.
For example, exclusive, bomb, exclusive. After add ing, sometimes people pronounce bombing, or other pronounce bombing, which
you don't normally, even if there's an ing, you still say, for instance, if it's a bomb, to bomb someone, but then it becomes bombing, but you still say Very, very rarely, in some accents, people will say bombing, but that's almost unheard of. I think I've only ever heard one person pronounce it like that. So yeah, so climb, climbing, comb, combing, numb, numbing. It's always pronounced just if it's after an M.
No, but teacher, here in this word I type it in chat box. You see it? In chat box.
In the chat box.
Yeah, it is not follow. It is follow you. Before
I don't see it in the chat box. Oh wait, it's over here in the other chat.
And the blue
Subtle.
icon. You see it?
Yes.
It is also okay.
Subtle. So B is sometimes also not pronounced in front of T's or D's. There's no real rule for this because obviously it is sometimes pronounced before a T, as in obtain or option. But yeah, in subtle and debt, which is spelled debt, it's not. So the reason for this is largely has to do with where the word comes from, and that it comes to us from French, and in French they don't pronounce the B. So that's the real thing, is that in words like debt or subtle, those words are French in origin. They're from Latin originally, but Latin becomes French. Then French gives English that word. And in French, those B's are silent. Okay. So often in English, it can help if you happen to know the etymology. If you've ever studied Latin or French or Greek, this can actually help your English, because often the reason we spell words differently is because of where they come from. So more Greek words tend to have certain vowels or certain letters than this.
Teacher, sorry for interrupting, but I post chat box a link there. You see the link, and just click it because I have an inquiry about this.
Yes, I've seen I'm on the page.
The page open now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is, for pronunciation, go to pronunciation. There is 3 pronunciation to this word. So if I want to follow American accent, I should follow rhymes in the middle.
So when it says rhymes, that's a link to any word that rhymes with this. So that says rhymes, and then you notice that's written uddle, is what that says. So if you want to know how to pronounce this properly, do you see where it says
an American accent especially? I don't.
Yes. So normally they would distinguish this, but it's pronounced the same in British and English, in British pronunciation and American. So see where it says IPA, key?
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, you'll notice it has some of the sounds, the symbols I've used. So that's subtle. And that schwa is in parentheses because some people argue whether or not it's even pronounced, but it's pronounced subtle. Some people would write it just with an L, subtle, and some people with the schwa, subtle, but it's pronounced the same either way.
Okay.
You can also know, because it says right there, audio, US. When they say that, that means US always means America, because we're the United States. So audio. So if you click that audio link, it'll play the word for you.
Yes, teacher, because I have a confusion about when I go to pronunciation, I see there's three. You see, ENBR, and under this rhymes, and under this the audio. So when I want to, especially, yeah, sorry. Okay, go ahead, teacher.
No, it's okay. So I'll tell you what those mean, so you don't have to be confused anymore.
Okay.
When you see ENPR, that means English pronunciation. They normally, sometimes that will mean English as in England, but normally they only use ENPR if it's universal to all English speakers. So most English speakers will pronounce this word the same, even if they're in England. When it says rhymes, that just, see how it says rhymes dash uddle? That just means this word, that is the rhyme of this word. So if you click that link under rhymes, it'll take you to a list of words that rhyme with this word. Okay. Then when it says audio, US, that's just an audio file for the US. So these aren't actually three pronunciations, it's just three different things that have to do with pronunciation. The first thing is how it's pronounced. The second, the link to all the rhymes with this word. And the third thing is an audio file that you can play. So if you want to see, for example, something where you can differentiate on the Wiktionary when it does something like this,
yeah, teacher, you give me this link before, I think. You don't remember?
Yeah, so,
I was with you on that.
Yeah, I probably have.
Yeah.
So if you go to the thing, normally it'll have, I'm just trying to find a good word that they will have options for in multiple languages, just to give you an example. Oh yeah. So for example, and here's a good one. This one actually has many. I'll put the link in the chat box.
Okay.
If you want to click that word.
Yes, teacher.
So you can see there under pronunciation, it has all these different things. So when you see something like this, it normally gives it in British English. That's always the most common. But you see down there it has received pronunciation, Australia, New Zealand, and US. And it even does something interesting, which it says caught merger. So in the United States, in all the southern and western parts, there's a kind of, there's something that happened to the language called the caught merger. And that's when those two words, C-O-T and C-A-U-G-H-T, sound the same. So when I say them, they're caught and caught. They're the same pronunciation because I do have that merger. So that pronunciation right there and that audio file, that's the one you'd use for me. Okay. For the northern parts of the United States, they still pronounce those words differently. And you can see the pronunciation of this word right there. And then you can see down they even have rhymes. And that rhymes will match with anything that is written with that. So that wouldn't rhyme with my caught merger because you can see its phonetic pronunciation, its phonetic spelling right there has that A sound, that ah sound in it, not that backward C, that O sound.
Okay. Yeah, I see, teacher. There is a H, letter H after K.
Yeah.
So caught.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yep. That is how I say it. Caught.
Okay.
And so that's an example. Another quick thing, just because we were talking about where words come from. Sometimes you'll see a PH, which is pronounced F, as in this word philosopher has two of those in it. It has a H in it. The reason is because that's a Greek word. for some reason, Greek Fs are always written PH in English. I don't really know. I kind of know why, but it largely has to do just with people trying to make sure you can tell a Greek word from a Latin word. Scientists did this, and it just caught on. So that's why you sometimes see PH for F.
Okay, teacher.
But yeah, so that's how that all works. And yeah, English spelling is unfortunately very complex. It'll be modified. Like I said, in most languages, spelling is very regular, but in English, it's not.
Yes, exactly, teacher.
Let me see if I can't. Link in the Verbling chat here. Oops, where's my Verbling chat? There it is. Oops. So I'm going to see if I can't put into. Is there a way to put files in the Verbling chat? Oh, there we go. Links. No, not links. Well, I can't figure out how to upload things through this. But yeah, so I hope any of that was helpful. I guess I will end the class now unless anyone has any final questions or things they'd like to know.
No, teacher, but I just want to ask about the dictionary. If this dictionary give me American accent, or there is another one?
You'll always know it's an American accent if it says U.S. or American. U.S. is what you should look for. It'll almost be U.S., whereas U.K. is Britain. U.K. is England, but U.S. is America. So any pronunciations it gives you for U.S., and sometimes it'll give you more than one because there are more accents in the United States. Southern, West Coast, U.S., but those will all be the American accent on this one. And if it doesn't list more than one, it is probably listing the English pronunciation. But chances are, if it doesn't list more than one, I mean, it's listing the British English pronunciation. But there also chances are that if it's not listing more than one, that word is either only exists in Britain, or it is pronounced the same in British and American English. So you're probably safe.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to see if I can't somehow put a link to the file for my PowerPoint onto this thing, but that is all for class right now. So goodbye, everybody.
Okay, teacher. Thank you. Yep. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.